beautiful souls. How have you been? So, welcome back to my channel, Breathe and Balance, where we speak of everything mystical, magical, and metaphysical to help us all regain balance in all aspects of our lives. So, I'm Chathuri Jayasooriya, a psychospiritual practitioner. So, today, as we are approaching 14th of February, Valentine's Day, which is globally celebrated as a day of love and affection, I thought of uh, having a conversation with you all about this very important and much felt human need for love and connection, right? And as always, what I'm offering you is a perspective that I always hope will help you in some way, shape, or form to really delve deeper into yourself. To understand and discover different parts of yourself. And I really hope that will help you in your process of awakening and, in your inner work. So today, what I'm going to talk about is quite interesting, actually. So it is about being single and partnered at the same time. Now, of course, most of you are going to ask the question, how is that even possible? Right? How can I be single and partnered at the same time? Right? It doesn't make sense to the left brain, the critical analytical mind. So let's delve in and see how that can be possible. Right? Okay. So, you know, of course, some of us are singles and some of us are partnered right now, right? And uh, we all have different kinds of experiences being single and partnered in different kinds of relationships. And today I'm specifically talking about, romantic relationships. And but I think, this can be applied even beyond that. But for the purpose of the discussion, let's, you know, focus on romance and romantic relationships or connections. And, everybody wants love and romance. I would say most people would love to have love and romance in their lives. So, you know how it is that when you're single, you may or may not be happy being single, but there is a tendency someday, even if you're very happy being single and you're single by choice, there may be some times when you crave or long for partnership or companionship and wish, oh, I wish I had a partner to have these deep conversations with or to connect with and share my love and my heart with, and to have fun with, travel with or whatever, that you are interested in experiencing with your partner. And then if you are partner, there may be times like you may be absolutely happy with your partner and, having a very beautiful partnership with, it could be a husband or your partner, whoever, you're romantically involved with or intimately involved with, let's say. But there may be times when you wish, oh, I wish, I could be single, or I wish I had more time for myself. I wish I could do things my way instead of having to consider somebody else's needs or having to be responsible for somebody, so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is whichever side of the fence that you might occupy, there are times when the grass is green on the other side, right? I mean, that's human nature. We are never content, or truly content most of the time. Like, even if you are living the happiest life, the mind always finds its way to some corner of the garden where the grass is a little less green, or you wish the grass to be greener, and you see the other side being greener, or more luscious, so more joyful, right? So it's a perspective. And the mind loves that perspective to make us feel not good enough, right? And unfortunately, that's what creates pain and suffering and this whole, trance of unworthiness, so on. Um, so, when we are single, say if I'm single, I might have this fantasy, and I call it a fantasy because it is this situation that we create in our mind. It's not our reality. It's not our felt or experienced reality at the moment, but somewhere in our mind, we imagine a different reality because we are not happy or satisfied with the reality that we are in or experiencing currently, right? So we imagine a situation, or if I'm with a partner, it'll be like this. I'll feel like this. We'll experience these things, and those experiences will make me feel this way. And usually, I imagine that situation to be better than now, or I feel that I will be happier, or more content than how I'm feeling right now as a single person, right? So that's a fantasy, and I uh, don't intend it to be like better or worse. It's not a comparison to say, okay, reality is better than a fantasy or vice versa. It's not a comparison or a judgment like that. But what I'm trying to say is that's what our minds create, the state of mind that is created when we are not content with the here and the now. Okay. And similarly, if you are partnered, the situation that you may imagine or fantasize, uh, okay, going out with their friends or doing whatever you desire whenever you desire, living a free, happy life, all those things that you are unable to probably experience right now in your situation of partnership, or you may be married with kids or whatever the situation uh, or a relationship state may be, the discontentment that you are experiencing will make you fantasize or create a preferred reality in your mind um, to give you that sense of satisfaction that you're not experiencing in the present moment, in your current situation, right? So basically, what this is showing is that we are not happy or content with our current reality, with our current experience in the here and the now. That's what it boils down to. And that's why our mind takes us on this major adventure or a trip to some other land. To meet those unmet needs, or the needs that has not been fulfilled in the here and the now. Okay, so this is the interesting part. Instead of just discarding it as a fantasy, if you could just pause for a moment and observe the fantasy, you would see what kind of human needs are there represented or symbolized in that fantasy that are not fulfilled in your current situation. Okay, and I think that would be a very important discovery, especially in your healing journey. Because what usually happens is, I would say that this fantasy is a projection of those unmet needs and unconscious needs most of the time. And this is one way, just like dreams, fantasies or imagination or daydreaming. These are states where that the mind creates, where those unconscious unmet needs are projected, and we become at least partially conscious of it. And this information that we can access through these fantasies can be quite important and useful in our journeys of healing and transformation. because rather than them driving us from the unconscious or the shadow, if we could actually consciously use imagination or fantasizing as a tool to really become conscious of whatever that is within the unconscious and are driving us from the unconscious. Because as I spoke about in my previous video on the shadow self, it can cause the unconscious or the shadow self in particular can create a lot of disarray and disharmony and even suffering if we do not attend to that part of ourselves, and if we allow it to run or drive our lives. Okay. So coming back to the singleness or the singlehood and partnership, whichever side of the fence you might occupy right now, whether you're single or partnered, and you are creating these fantasy worlds or experiencing it in some way, shape, or form, what I would like to invite you here is to observe that fantasy and to kind of realize that there is this particular conflict within most of us, where, okay, every time you feel, oh, I wish I could have this or that, okay, I'm single, but I wish I could have more support with a partner. I could, I wish I had a partner to do this with me, whatever that is, okay, that is creating that particular fantasy because that particular need is not met. And similarly, if you are partnered and if you are wishing, I wish I had this, I could be alone, so that I could meditate more or whatever it might be, you're creating that fantasy. So there is a particular conflict between the reality and the surreality that you are creating, the reality that you're actually experiencing, and the fantasy or the surreality that you are creating in your mind. Now, if you observe these two different realities, who's actually living which reality? If I may pose that question to you. Who's living which reality? And which reality are you really occupying? Can you find an answer within you? So take a moment, pause, close your eyes, go deep within into yourself and see who's living which reality. So you can even jot down, whatever the answers that may come to you. So what I would like to offer here is that both these realities might actually be two different realities simultaneously being experienced by two different parts within you. Okay. So for a moment, open your mind to that possibility. What if I am actually experiencing both these realities simultaneously through two different parts within me? Okay, because we are not just one singular self. So we are a combination of multiple different parts that create what we refer to as the self. But there are so many different parts being born, living for some time and dying and, coming into our lives again whenever the situation requires, right? And I always find parts work really fascinating, especially for what it can reveal to us about ourselves, right? So just remember that there are so many different parts within us. And in this situation, there is so especially when you're feeling this conflict, within you, there is a part that is single or that wants to be single, or let's say the single part of you. And then there is a part that is the partnered part within you, right? So whether it is actually manifested in your life or not in the three-dimensional physical reality, that part is alive within you. Okay, so I hope you're following me. So there is a part within you who wants to experience what let's say, Miss or Mr. Single wants to experience, and there is a part of you that Miss or Mr. Single wants to experience in a partnership, right? So both of those selves or the parts are alive within you. And although you may have kind of projected one part into the physical manifested reality, the other part of you is also living inside of you, carrying with it its own needs. And in this case, unmet needs, because it has not been kind of manifested in the physical reality. Okay. So what happens is, when, let's say, I'm single and I'm living my beautiful single life, the part of me that wants to be partnered, or, that wants to create that experience of partnership, experiencing love with another person, her needs are yet to be met, right? So from time to time, she's going to come out and say, hey, please notice me too. Like, I'm here too. You're not paying me any attention. I have these needs, I want these needs to be met, So those are the moments where you would feel that dissatisfaction within you, as you are living your single life. And similarly, you can apply it to yourself even if you are in a partnership and you feel this longing to be single, right? Even for 1 millisecond, So usually we, unconsciously or consciously suppress those parts of us because we feel kind of an obligation to be faithful to the part that has already been manifested in the three-dimensional reality because, we had manifested due to some choice. So you have this unconscious need to oblige that part, create, space for that part. But what happens is then the polarity of it, which also lives within us, gets suppressed, right? And there, by is created the conflict, especially if we are not conscious, that this is actually happening within us. Right? So, okay, I mean, all that is actually fine. Let's say, okay, we have these different parts with different needs and, you know, we experience life in whatever way, depending on the choices that we have made, right? But the perspective that I would like to offer you today is, what if you could actually be single and partnered at the same time? What if you could actually meet the needs of both the single person and the partnered person within you? Right? Is that possible? Right? All possibilities exist in the here and the now, and although the reality may be physical, we live in a mental world, and the world that we live in is actually created by the mind. So all these parts also live inside of our mind, right? So even rationally, then it would make sense that, yes, it is possible for us to create different realities within us where we meet all these different needs, right? So the way in which you can create both these realities parallelly is to create spaces that can be occupied by both these parts whenever the need arises. For example, if you are single, right, and want to experience partnership, is it possible for you to create that experience within and or without? And how do we do that? I mean, if you can pause once again and use your imagination, be creative, and see how can you do that. Okay. And one way in which we can do is actually imagination or the fantasy that I was referring to earlier. Like just daydream. daydream, like imagine that you have this beautiful partner with you who's supportive and who really loves you, adores you, whatever, the need may be that you want to fulfill through a loving partnership, right? Because you see, I mean, you might say, okay, it's just in my head, like, I'm not really feeling it in my body and things like that. But here's the thing, the mind actually does not differentiate between then and now and that reality and this reality. It's almost one and the same to the mind, although the difference is actually in the physical reality, in the embodied part of it. But as you may already know, and research has proven, the mind is very powerful, and mind is able to create sensations in the body, which is why, like, when you can do this even now, like, close your eyes and, imagine sucking a lime, what are you going to feel? You're going to feel, salivate, right? I mean, you're going to salivate, you're going to really feel it, the body is reacting, thinking that it's actually eating a lime, right? So if that is possible, if the mind can create those sensations in the body, and the body can react accordingly, then this is the same principle that we use in hypnotherapy as well. We create a reality that does not exist, but that actually creates a particular reality within that is able to shift your experience, your behavior, and facilitate healing. How is that possible? Right? So which goes to show that it's not always necessary for you to experience everything in the physical reality in order for the body to experience it. And so what I believe is it's not just the body, heart, mind, body, and so they're all connected. And, when we create these experiences in our mind, it is actually felt. Especially if you engage all the five senses in the process of imagination or fantasy or daydream or hypnotherapy, I mean, whatever the term or the process may be, that experience is actually felt within, right? And that is able to fulfill the needs in a particular way, right? I'm not saying like it's exactly as, kind of experiencing it in the 3D physical reality. Like, for example, somebody actually touching you and you imagining somebody touching you may have a slight difference, but it can have almost similar kind of an effect, depending on how you do that, right? So this is about using the power of mind to create experience and even embodied experience within, right? So that's one way. And the other second suggestion that I would like to propose here is, how can you be your best partner, the most loving? This is, of course, related to self-love. What can you do for yourself that you want a partner to do for you? Right? I mean, there's a reason why we always look for partnership, right? Okay, it could be because you want to have beautiful conversations, or it could be because you love to travel around the world with somebody, whatever that you want to do with another person, right? So just see what of those things can you do for yourself, right? With yourself. So in this case, you are your partner, your most romantic partner. And there are so many of those things that we can actually do with ourselves, especially if you can, and especially once you get over the novelty of this idea. At first you might feel it's awkward, or, how do I do this, with myself? And those questions, of course, come from the left brain, the mind, the ego mind, the rational mind, because we are conditioned in a particular way, right? But once you uncondition, recondition yourself, it's going to feel quite normal. So that's the second suggestion. And the third is actually in the 3D physical reality, we have many other relationships or connections, like, let's say, friendships, like platonic friendships, So sometimes all that we need, like, although in our fantasy, we feel, okay, I need a partner, a romantic partner for this, some of those needs can actually be met in some other connection with a friend or colleague or whoever who may be present in your world, like, for example, having a beautiful deep conversation, you know or going on a trip, or enjoy some other moment together, walking on the beach or whatever. And it could even be your fur baby, your pets, because at the end of the day, all that we are longing for is love and connection. So although we think it has to be with another human being, it may be possible, actually, if we open our hearts to this experience and open our minds, it may be possible for us to experience this love and connection with non-human beings, I mean, in the sense of trees or animals, and, things like that, Um, so what I'm trying to say here is that we are capable of creating the situations or the energies that we want to experience in context or connections outside of that of a romantic relationship. Okay? So this is in no way to suggest that, okay, don't have romantic relationships at all or any such thing. I mean, not to, I always say, like, don't go to extremes. This is just to offer you another perspective that it is actually possible for us, if we open our hearts and minds to experience what we need in different ways. It's not limited. So what I'm trying to do is to expand our consciousness, so that we expand our possibilities and therefore our experience as well. So, okay, this is if we are single, right? How to experience that partnership. So I gave you 3 suggestions. So moving on to partnership. So if we are partnered and is craving for the life of a single person, because there is always that assumption, once again, okay, being single is free, that you can make your decisions with more freedom without having to worry about other people or the other person, and things like that, right? I mean, I think we make a lot of assumptions, whichever side of the fence that we are in, right? That's what the mind does. So in any case, then you can see, even if you're married or not, or if you're with a partner, in some way, shape, or form, you can try to see, okay, how do I create that space, first of all, within myself? Can I create that space within myself where I allow myself to be just with myself, to feel myself, my heart, mind, body, and soul at all levels? How do I create that time and space to be with me, to connect with me? Okay. And how do I create that time and space in my life to do what I want to do, without involving the other person or the family, So this takes commitment, right? This takes, I mean, either side of the fence, once again, it takes commitment for you to turn this into a practice so that you can actually create space for that other part of you who has their own needs, right? And their needs does not always have to be ignored. It's about actually getting in touch with that part of you, that polarity, as I call it, the unexpressed or the suppressed part of you, and to create that space within and without, and hold that space so that that part can also be expressed and experienced to the degree that is possible in your life, right? Because we all have our own unique world, our own unique circumstances, so and also our own capacity, right? But no matter what, we all have the capacity to experience and especially to connect with ourselves to whatever the degree that is possible. So this is why I'm saying, like, it is actually possible to be single and partnered at the same time, because it's about creating a particular experience to meet a particular set of needs of the parts that exist within you, us. Right? So I hope this makes sense, and that you'll open yourself up to to try and experience what initially may seem or feel like a contradiction or impossibility or whatever it may be. But do try, and do let me know, how it feels and what you experienced. But above all, what I would like to share is that it is so important to be content and joyful with whatever the experience we are given in the here and the now, whatever the situation or the relationship status may be that you are experiencing in the present moment, right here, right now, right? That is my reality that I have created for myself to learn whatever it is that I'm meant to learn in this incarnation, right? When we incarnate to learn something. And we often learn many, many lessons, and the deepest lesson through relationship. But more than anything, I believe that the most important is to learn how to be joyful, whether we are single or whether we are partnered. Find joy in being single when you're single, and find joy in being partnered when you're partnered. Of course, I'm not talking about, toxic relationships here. I'm referring to, our average, ordinary, romantic partnerships. But it's ultimately about learning to find joy from within, because happiness, joy, contentment, this is about our inner self. It's really not about the other person. The other person, if at all, is only a reflection of ourselves, whether it's our light or our shadow. And when we connect to another person, what they do is actually to hold the mirror and help us see those parts within us, that we may not be able to see on our own. That's the importance of any relationship, not only romantic relationships. But romantic relationships, by its nature, because of the intensity and all the different dimensions involved, are best placed to really trigger us as well as inspire us. So that's why they can be some of the most exhilarating as well as excruciating connections in our lives, right? Yeah, they just help us to connect more with ourselves and all those different and contradictory parts within us. So ultimately, whether we are single or partnered, we are simply learning to connect more and more with ourselves and to become intimate with ourselves. Because intimacy, as most of you might already know, stands for into me, I see. Right? So when you are in a partnership, it gives you some more or different opportunities for you to really become intimate with yourself. But if we learn to really do the inner work and become intimate with all these different dimensions and parts within us, That's when we become fully equipped to or capacitated to be in a truly fulfilling and wholesome, uh, intimate relationship with another person. Okay, so that's why I feel like uh, it's important to experience both sides of the fence, like being single, being in a relationship or a partnership, and switch between the two. But what may be important more than anything is to really fully experience whatever you're experiencing in whatever the relationship state that you find yourself in or you create for yourself, right? So be here and now, experience fully whatever your experience offers. And once again, ask yourself, what if it's possible to be single and partnered at the same time? What would that be like? So do share your experience with me. If you would like to, I'd be so happy to hear back from you. And do like and subscribe and share with your friends. And till we see each other next time with another interesting alchemical conversation. Yeah, have a lovely day ahead. Bye for now.